Well, now I'm back. It was called the Caribou Wagon Trail. Well, now I'm back. Today I'm in Hope, British Columbia, and I'm going to take a ride up the Gold Rush Trail, which is in the Fraser Canyon Highway 1. I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story about the Fraser Canyon Road, an opportunity I had, a little bit of a disappointment, and what did I do about it. Okay, let's get going. Now, the history of the Fraser Canyon is very interesting, but it's really not that old. It was only about 150 years ago when European settlers started trying to come through here. The indigenous peoples, they've been around here for thousands of years, but it wasn't until about 1858 when there was the gold rush in the Caribou, and of course all the stampeders from California came up here and tried to find a route to get up there. So this road is now known as Highway 1, but back in 1858, the first time they tried to carve a road through here, it was called the Caribou Wagon Trail. And that was for all the stampeders to get their gold mining equipment up to the Caribou region. Now that was about 10 years before Canada was a nation. And the area was known as British Columbia at that time. I think it was a colony. But did you know during that time, there was actually a war here? It was called the Fraser River War, and it happened in 1858. And it was between the local indigenous peoples and the stampeders, the gold miners. And what happened from a conflict that happened, the gold miners actually came up with several battalions, and they actually started a war here that lasted the summer of 1858. And then they came to a truce with the indigenous peoples, and that was it. It didn't last very long, but that's part of the colorful history around here. Now, as you can tell, there's lots of tunnels here because it's so narrow and the river is so deep in the canyon here. Now, the next part of the history here is in the 1880s. This is the path that the railway chose to come through here when they were building a railway from the east coast to the west coast. So when they started building that railway line through here, actually several sections of the Caribou Wagon Trail got sacrificed to put the railway line through here. So by the 1880s, the Caribou Wagon Trail was no more. Now, the next time that they actually came through here to build a passage for vehicles, that's when they called it the Caribou Highway. They decided to do that around 1904. And by the time the surveying and the route was figured out, it was the 1920s when they built what's now known as the Caribou Highway. And that was for the automobiles. And you take a look at the old pictures then, too. Man, what a chore that would have been. But the Caribou Highway stayed here from the 1920s all the way until the 1960s. And that's when the designation of the highway changed again, and it turned into Highway 1, the Trans-Canada Highway. In the 1960s, that went from coast to coast. Now, I remember driving on this highway in the 70s and the 80s, and it was so busy. It was bumper to bumper traffic. And it was really frustrating getting from Vancouver to Kamloops. Then in the mid-1980s, then came the Coquihalla Highway. Once that came in, it cut off about 2 hours of the travel time to get to Kamloops. And most people started taking that road, and this road started getting less vehicles on it, which made it easier to ride. But economically, it kind of hurt this region. And it almost reminds me of that movie Cars, Radiator Springs, where everybody takes the fast highway now and nobody takes these old roads. But for motorcycles, I love taking this highway. It's a great day ride from our house. So that leads me into what was my opportunity. I'm going to tell you about that story next. Well, this is as good as any time to stop. My battery's dead, so let's stop at Hell's Gate. So I pulled over at Hell's Gate here. That's a little tourist attraction that's on the Fraser Canyon. And I'm going to tell you about the opportunity I had and a disappointment. So what was the opportunity? So one of my subscribers actually forwarded my name to a casting call. And what they were doing, it was part of Tourism BC, where they were going to showcase the Fraser Canyon with a couple of motorcycles. So I was intrigued by that. So I thought I'll put my name in for it. And I actually got a call back, and I had to fill out these forms for the callback, and then they were going to make a decision. So that day was the day we rode from Wyoming all the way to Idaho. I think it was 11 hours riding time, and we were on the road till we didn't get in till about 8 at night. So I filled out the forms, sent it in, and then I looked at it, and it was supposed to be sent in by noon that day. Oh. So I guess I never made the cut, because I didn't send it in till about 9 or 10 at night, and it was supposed to be in by noon. So actually I was pretty disappointed by that, because I would have loved to have done something like that. You know, one of the things I discovered in retirement, one of the things a person struggles with is feeling useful during retirement. You know, you come out of a job that you used to be, you know, somewhat important type thing, and now you're just doing things for yourself, and after a while, you know, you kind of want to be part of something. So what did I do? Well, the truth is I was pretty disappointed, and when we got home I was pretty tired. So you probably noticed I've taken the last month off of doing anything with YouTube. Well, now I'm back. So this is going to be the first one since coming back. And what did I want to do? The Fraser Canyon, because of course that's what that Tourism BC was going to be all about. One of the questions they asked me, something that I needed to expand upon, is why do I like riding the Fraser Canyon so much? And I'll tell you why here. So one of the most important things about happiness is being in the moment. One of the things my wife taught me about years ago, and this was through yoga practice, that when thoughts come into your mind, you worry about the past or you're anxious about the future, you know, the thoughts come in, you just acknowledge them, let them go, and come back to the present. When you're the happiest is when you're in the present. And for me, riding motorcycles, especially on a road where it's challenging and the twists and turns, and I find myself in the moment more often than I'm thinking about something else. I can go for hours sometimes and not think about something else. I'm purely focused on the road. So that's why I like riding the Fraser Canyon.